going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I am your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, 31 Days of Horror, Volume 9, Day 28. It's coming at you live and direct. All right, guys. So we're going to take it back to the 90s, specifically 1995, with a Wave production. If you don't know what Wave, the Wave production company was, it was basically a company that put out like low budget shot on video films in the 90s. Actually, there's a great documentary released by Saturn's Core. I think it was the very first release on the Saturn's Core line, sister partner label on Vinegar Syndrome site, that goes through the whole history of Wave Productions and stuff. So if you want to know more about that, check out that documentary. It's really awesome. But with a film directed by, what's his name again? Sal Longo. And I know the name actually because I've seen Psycho Sisters before. He did that one, I think, the year before? Maybe 1994 was like a year before this one. He did a film called Dead North, which I believe also was released by Saturn's Core. I haven't seen that one yet. And he actually remade his own film, Psycho Sisters, I believe in 1998 and stuff like that. So, but this one right here is from 1995 and it's called Fatal Delusion. Yes. Like I said, a Wave production, so this is a shot on video film. Had to rock the Video Violence shirt for today because Video Violence is actually my favorite shot on video film of all time. So, yeah, had to do that. But, so basically this one centers around our main character, David Caters, I think his name, David Caters. He is a serial killer, and he basically suffers from PTSD. He was in the Vietnam War, and he was subjected to some shit that pretty much fucked him up. He had a female major officer, and they did some crazy shit, and yeah. So anyways, you fast forward like 20 years after this, and then all of a sudden one day he just fucking stops. And the thing is, he's actually killing off women that look exactly like this female major officer from Vietnam War. They have brunette hair and stuff like that. So every time he sees somebody that reminds him of her, he goes on this murderous rampage and stuff like that. So basically what happens is in the beginning of the film, he kills a bunch of women and stuff like that. Anyways, he gets caught. He gets sent to a maximum security prison. And he kind of goes through the motions in there. And anyways, he ends up getting transferred to like a minimum security prison because good behavior and all that type of stuff and shit like that. Anyways, he ends up escaping from there, and he ends up killing his psychologist from the prison, who he like did up a whole itinerary for his like vacation and stuff like that. It's so ridiculous. Anyways, this psychologist is on vacation. He goes out there and kills him, assumes his identity, and then basically takes a job inside a police station acting as a psychologist, working on the serial killer case and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's pretty much the premise of your film, Fatal Delusion. Now my thoughts on this one, yeah, like honestly, the storyline in this film is actually pretty crazy. I mean, it's about a serial killer that's not just a serial killer. Like, this guy breaks out of prison, he assumes someone else's identity, becomes a psychologist and stuff like that. It's got a really interesting and cool premise to it. Cool thing about this one is it's actually starring Tina Cruz. She plays, only in the flashback scenes, she plays the female major officer in a few flashback scenes from Vietnam and stuff like that. So, but yeah, Fatal Delusion, of course, it's a shot on video film. The director, I always forget his name, Sal Longo. He actually plays the lead in this film. He actually plays the serial killer. Now, the problem with his portrayal of the serial killer, he doesn't really have the cadence, or like, he just doesn't have the charisma to really pull off the whole serial killer angle and stuff. Like, it's just weird. Like, his performance isn't it's not horrible or nothing, but it just doesn't come off as being like psychotic enough and like even overly smart enough and stuff. I don't know. I was struggling with his character like the entire film. I wasn't believing in his portrayal of a serial killer throughout the whole film. But I think my biggest problem with Fatal Delusion, though, is this one runs about 103 minutes, and there's so many. It just suffers from what a lot of shot on video films suffer from, is just not editing the film properly. Like, there's a lot of scenes in this film that go on way too long, like way too long. It's not chock full of like, the usual things like, fucking slow motion scenes and stuff like that, things to just pad the time with. It doesn't really have any of that in there. It just has a lot of talky scenes and stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of those scenes could have been cut down. Like, there's this whole kind of subplot with this female cop that he meets when he goes and takes his job in this precinct. And she has like relationship problems with her boyfriend and stuff like that. And you know, it kind of gets into that, like they go out for drinks and there's this huge long scene and there's this like really romantic sex scene that's not even very exploitive at all. I don't even think there's any nudity in it and stuff like that. And I'm just like, really? This is so crazy. It goes on like a long time. And actually some of like the, you know, the kill scenes he has with the females and stuff, like the very first one in the film, it goes on so long because he's just struggling. He's just like, he's a bigger dude, but he's not that menacing, and he really struggles when the women fight back, and it's hilarious to me because it's like, you're a serial killer and you can't fucking beat off these, like, you know, these 55-pound women. It's ridiculous. So the kill scenes, you know, themselves are a little bit comical. They're not really that bloody or gory. There's one scene in the film where he kills a girl in a hotel room and he rips out her guts and stuff like that. And but the guts, it just looks like piles of shit. It really does. It looks like piles of shit, and it's just, it kind of made me laugh a little bit. And even to take that scene one step further made me laugh was he actually takes her guts and he flushes them down the toilet, which they actually explain away later in the film of having to do with his PTSD and just a certain way of dealing with the trauma and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God, it's crazy. But overall, the kills aren't that satisfying in this. There's a fair amount of them, but it's like, you know, it's rinse, watch, repeat itself, like pretty much through the whole film and stuff like that. And it's, you know, it's, you gotta really kind of like separate yourself from like the real reality, because I mean, the fact that this guy assumes someone's identity and, you know, just kind of goes into this police station and stuff like that is really ridiculous. Even though there is another subplot, like with one of the cops kind of figuring that maybe something's going on with this dude because, you know, he just didn't believe that he tells a story about Vietnam and shit like that. And so there's like a police investigation of that, which would make sense because if you felt like there was a traitor within your system, you know, you feel like you would, you know, kind of investigate it and stuff like that. But all in all, man, this one, like, it was kind of a bog to get through. And I really love Way Productions, and I'm a big fan of Saturn's Core, the label. In fact, pretty much everything that I've watched and reviewed has been really good. They put out some real big bangers and stuff like that. And this is one I was looking forward to checking out because I really like Psycho Sisters. In fact, I like that one a lot more than this one. I gotta say, I wasn't really overly impressed with this. It has a really good story. It's got really good elements. It does suffer from just not having the correct edit for it, really. I mean, it's nothing special too. Like the music is pretty standard stuff and things like that. And honestly, there is parts in the film where the transfer is not even the greatest. Like, it does look fine for what it is shot on video, but there's a few edits and there's a few dropouts in sound. And there's actually one scene where they cut in where there's an edit and you can actually see the play on the top. And I was like, holy shit, dude, that's just crazy. But really, like most of the Saturn's Core releases, I haven't really seen any of that with them. So this one just feels a little bit more, even lower budget at times. And I just, again, man, if you're going to make a film about a serial killer with a pretty cool storyline, you might want to do the kills a little bit better and maybe get a little bit sleazier, because his focus isn't like, you know, rape and murder and stuff like that. It has nothing to do with that. Like, he does take a little bit of trophies like most serial killers do, but again, the kills are just, they're very minor. They're just not really the greatest, and it was kind of disappointing to watch. So, but yeah, I mean, again, there's so many better Way Productions out there, and he's actually done better films himself with Psycho Sisters. But I still need to see the remake. I've heard that one's actually pretty good too. So, but all in all, Fatal Delusion, kind of a miss for me. I'm going to come in dead in the middle on this one at a 5 out of 10. It's not horrible. I'm going to give it some props for, you know, writing a pretty decent script. Like, you know, the actual story's okay, you know, and even some of the dialogue isn't even that bad in the film. It's just some of the scenes go on way too fucking long, like crazy long. So, yeah, and it could have probably been a little bit sleazier too, considering it does come across as being something that would be very sleazy, but it's actually not. So, but yeah, 5 out of 10, not one of my favorite releases from Saturn's Core, unfortunately. And the other disappointment thing was too, is when I found out that Tina Cruz was going to be in the film, I'm like, oh, that's pretty fucking sweet. Because I actually reviewed one of her films last year called Limbo during the 31 Days of Horror. It was actually a film that she started and directed, actually. I think it was the first film that she had directed, but she was in lots of films like Bloodletting and you know, Psycho Sisters and among films. She was in tons of Way films in the 90s and stuff. So I was a little bit disappointed that she was only in this for very, very minor parts and stuff like that. So yeah, it is what it is, but I guess they all can't be hits, right? All right, so that's going to do it here for day 28. I'll be back tomorrow on day 29. I have no idea what I'm doing tomorrow at all. Can't even remember. So I'll check you guys then. And as per usual, deuces! Oh, that fucking kid. I know that picked up on there.